So, VOD reviewing. For those of you who don't know, VOD reviewing is simply reviewing or watching back gameplay with the intent of learning or fixing mistakes to improve your game. And it really does just that. I could go on for hours about why VOD reviewing is so amazing, but let's just get straight into everything you need to know about VOD reviewing your fights, like what you should be looking for, how much you should VOD review, and how to do it the best so you can get a whole lot better. First of all, I know VOD reviewing might not be as fun as just playing, and if you don't want to do it, that's okay, but for all of you players looking to really take your game to the next level, VOD reviewing is essential. For all of your sessions of Arena, you want to have replays turned on or just record all of your gameplay. I think I prefer pure recordings for VOD reviewing in Arena because you're able to see the exact movements that you've made at every second, which is really important for improving fighting. So once you've gotten your fights recorded in one of those ways, let's get into exactly what you should be looking for to improve your fights. And for this, I like to use the following categories: mistakes with your aim, builds and edits, movement and peaks, and fighting sense. If you don't really want to go too in depth with VOD reviewing and spend a lot of time on it, then you can just look over your deaths and categorize them into one of these categories. Just something this simple can go a long way for your improvement, as you will almost immediately begin to see trends in your errors and you'll be able to adjust your practice accordingly to improve. So let's go break down the categories. So aim errors are simply missing your shots or poor crosshair placement. These are pretty basic, but if you want to go a bit further, you can make subcategories of tracking, click timing and flicking, and crosshair placement. If you face a lot of these errors, then you simply need to spend more time aim training, playing aim duels and Kovacs. Don't take much of that time out of your time to play actual matches, however, because having the confidence to aim in-game is nearly as important as being able to aim in practice. Building and editing errors are pretty basic as well, and they just include any time you mess up a build or edit. For these, you simply need to find the builds or edits that you mess up the most and practice them a lot in creative. Make sure that you slow down and do them properly so that you can build up a lot of practice doing them the right way. Then, movement and peak errors. These are just errors with how you maneuver yourself in fights, especially when taking shots at your opponent. Some common errors here are taking a lot of left-hand peeks, not crouching or moving behind cover to piece control, and jumping a lot when you're in someone's box. Sometimes it can be quite hard to know if your death was caused by movement errors, but a really good method for weeding out these errors is to slow down your gameplay to half speed or less and really watch how you move. This will help you find so many more of these errors which you can fix with this method. So the method for these errors is that you just need to practice while keeping those errors in mind and forcing yourself to do them properly until it becomes habit. A great way to do this is work your way from low stress to high stress environments that you have to think about moving in. For example, if your movement error is that you never move behind a right hand peak to take a shot or piece control, then start off practicing in creative alone in a map like Raiders piece control practice map, forcing yourself to do it in every scenario, and then once you've mastered it in there, move on to practicing it in 1v1s in creative, and then keep working your way into higher stress environments until you can do it perfectly in all your tournament matches. One last thing to keep in mind for this is that your movement and aim errors are closely related. You might have really good aim, but put yourself in awful positions to hit shots, like maybe you're too close to the opponent and then you'll miss a shot and it will seem like you have bad aim. And the same thing applies for your aim. You might just have really good movement so you can dodge every shot of the enemy and never let them hit you, and then it might seem like you can out-aim anyone, but your aim is actually not that good. Be specific when looking at these issues in your gameplay and make sure to identify the correct one. Make sure you look at all of the peaks you take, the way you strafe and move, and so on, so you can fix your movement and improve. And then there's fighting sense errors. These involve basically everything else that you do in a fight, such as being aware of other players' positioning, choosing the right builds and edits to do, and how you approach fights in general. These errors can be difficult, but I'll go over some ways to deal with them. So, one common mistake that players make involving fighting sense is the way they approach a box. Players have gotten a lot better now, and you can't just rely on jumping down on a ramp to take someone's wall. If you're doing that a lot, you need to stop. If you notice that whenever you do one specific move in a fight, like dropping down on a ramp to take a wall, you take a lot of damage or lose the fights consistently, force yourself to go into a few games without that move and see if you do any better. If you're consistently doing better when you change the move, then you've just found your error and you can practice a new move that will go on to replace it. Continuing on with the example error of the way you approach a box, you'll definitely be wanting to approach a box from either the top or diagonally and claiming a lot more build pieces around yourself before going for the wall. Basically, for most fighting sense related errors, you want to practice out those poor habits and practice a lot to replace them with better habits, such as approaching a box diagonally or making your go-to edit a right hand window instead of a big wide edit. These errors can also be solved just by watching pros and taking note of what they're doing in a similar situation to you. For example, if you go up to someone's box to take their wall and end up dead, and then you just watch Noah Rayleigh place a ramp right inside their box and pre-box them, you should try doing that instead of what you were doing before. Sorry I keep going back to the approaching a box example, but it's just a really good way to explain the principles used to solve any fighting sense error. I can't cover them all in this video, but here's a few more common ones. Not starting a fight with an advantage, fighting on the wrong part of zone, not paying attention to what the enemy is doing, this might cause them to get heals off or take height, doing the wrong build moves at the wrong time, knowing when to end fights with a 50-50 and not taking too many 50-50s and jumping into boxes all the time, not claiming build pieces, and overbuilding. So next, let's go over how long you need to VOD review to improve your fighting. And really, it's not a lot. You only need to VOD review once or twice a week in a 1 to 2 hour session and just look through those deaths with a notebook or something else that you can record all of your losses in, because it's so important just to write things down so that you can easily implement them into your practice and then your games. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video on how to VOD review your fights in Arena. It was sort of a part 2 to my previous video on how to improve fighting in Arena, so if you haven't already, go watch that one too.